So this is the second little podcast thing that I'm doing. The first one did okay. It wasn't that bad, but I thought it was really fun to do, so I wanted to do another one. So I appreciate the people who have listened to my last one, and also are willing to listen to this one. Hopefully I won't go too long, but I honestly cannot promise that. So basically from the title, you can tell that this is about my first trip overseas in Japan. If you've never been overseas before, I'd probably recommend Japan as one of the first ones, just because overall it was a lot different, but it was also something familiar with, the animes. So we went to Japan for 2 weeks and we stayed in an Airbnb. It didn't feel real until on the very day of the flight, where I was like, holy shit, I'm going to Japan. Like, that's not in Australia. Pretty much the ride was direct, so it was 9 hours of fun. I think I slept through most of it, if anything. The only story I could probably give you is when I wanted to go to the toilet and I was waiting so long for this closed cubicle, and then I found out that it was a mother and 3 of her kids in this tiny little toilet cubicle. Like, what were you all doing there, and why did you take so long? So we mostly were there to look at anime and things like that, so basically we were there to be weebs. We did do a lot of sightseeing, obviously, but not as much. It was more about walking around looking for the most anime places we could go. So our Airbnb was really tiny, as you'd expect. It was like an apartment. Pretty much it had all the necessities that you'd really need as a tourist. The best part of that Airbnb was the toilet, because it was a bidet, so it had one of those water things that go sploosh sploosh, in your areas, and it felt really nice, and I felt like a goddess upon a throne. Basically what my friend told me was correct, where after you've been to that toilet and you come back home in your normal toilet, you feel like a savage. I wouldn't say go there just for the toilet, but I mean I would go there. I would suggest to go there to try that out, because that was a good feature. The transport was amazing. It's definitely a lot different from Australia, if you're familiar. So basically our buses, for example, are meant to come, well, at least mine is meant to come every 15 minutes, but usually I have to wait maybe 25 to 30 minutes, if not more, for my bus. But in Japan, pretty much their transport comes every 5 minutes, and it does come. Obviously, it's cramped, full of people, as you'd expect in most areas, but I mean, it was on time. There were people that was sleeping there, which was also expected. There was maybe one guy who almost slept on my shoulder. One of the best things about it was there's these cute little kids in their little student outfits with their little bags and their little hats, and oh, they're so cute. I was just like, ah! Obviously I didn't do anything to frighten those kids, but I mean, I just liked looking at them and just admiring the cuteness. Our neighborhood was it was nice and small and clean. There were a lot of old people and businessmen and bicycles. And that was pretty neat to see. There were people driving mostly cars that are small and shaped like rectangles. And that was, it was pretty much a really nice place to live, just leaving to go to places. Like all the stations that you needed to go to were pretty much like 3 or 5 minutes apart. So the places that we went to, it was a couple of the main big ones, if anything. So it's not in the right order, but there was Shibuya, Akihabara, Shinjuku, Harajuku, Ikebukuro, and Asakusa. Pretty much through all of it, there is advertisement everywhere, like on boards, big TVs against buildings, things like that, which you would expect anyway. There's heaps of anime everywhere, anime titties everywhere, because, anime. Everyone's dressed in fashion. There's a lot of health advertisements as well, and some J-pop, cars going through with, girls from like AKB48 and things like that. And basically, it was just full of people for the most part. Everyone's polite, pretty much kept to themselves. I guess the only rude people we ever came across was like the tourists, which makes sense, I guess. There was gachapons everywhere. Pretty much some had just junk in there, some had pretty neat things, but there were a couple that were like expensive. There was also a lot of slot machine places, so pretty much as soon as you go in there, there's all these older people on the slots smoking. I would say through everything, a lot of walking did take place. I thought I was prepared, but I actually wasn't. I got pretty injured through most of the part, which wasn't great. So for instance, I thought my slip-on shoes were going to be comfortable because I've usually walked around here with them, but they're actually as if I had Satan at my feet. So my heels were hurting so much, and my toes were getting sore somehow. Pretty much I had to go buy shoes. My thighs pretty much chafed around the beginning because it was so humid. So when we were walking, I was wearing mostly like a dress or a skirt, and pretty much I got chafing, and that was a pain in the ass, so I had to get cream for that. Pretty much what I'd recommend is if you're going to go to Japan, please be prepared. Wear those pants and those leggings and those tights, and do not let those legs touch, and wear proper shoes. So in the order of everything, I don't really remember. I just remember that on the very first day we went to Shibuya. Pretty much what I noticed when you say you're going to Japan, people say, oh, it's so clean, like everything is clean, the streets are clean, etc. When we went to Shibuya, I wouldn't recommend going there first thinking everything's going to be clean, because it pretty much reminded me of Brisbane City, which means there were a lot of dirty areas. There are some parts that smelled like eggs. You know those people, when you go to the city in Brisbane, if you're in Australia, and it smells like eggs, and you're like, where are these eggs coming from? There was some part where I saw some guy sprawled on the floor. I hoped he was sleeping, but pretty much when we went back, he was gone. Whatever happened to that man, I hope he's okay. Another thing is that I actually saw a filthy rat just walking along the streets. And I was thinking, dear Lord, why are we here? We basically went there to get the tickets, if anything, and look at the Shibuya crossing. But I wouldn't recommend going there thinking that everything is going to be clean, as what people say. The main places, so Akihabara and Ikebukuro, was pretty much just pure anime games, and pretty much just looking through all the anime. Harajuku was like fancy and flashy and full of fashion, and apparently GYG is there. Pretty much what I noticed in all of these places, that everyone pretty much wears the fashion that is there, so everyone's trendy. It was really humid and hot, and I was sweating to hell, and these people were wearing full-on clothes, and I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, how are you real? Another place that we went to was Shinjuku, so that was to mainly see the robot restaurant. Pretty much, robot restaurant is like, it's like if you were on acid at a disco. That's pretty much what you'd expect to see. And pretty much through that night, it was pretty intimidating after the show, because I actually, pretty much what ruined my trip was, I got better eventually, but pretty much what was a big downer was in Shinjuku, I actually saw someone get beaten up at night, and it was outside one of the slot places. So whether he was being a shithead and, people wanted to bash him, or for some reason these people are actually bad and they're like bashing him for no reason, I don't know. Either way, I was just very uncomfortable, and I wanted to leave, and I wanted to go home. Pretty much it shook me a lot, surprisingly. I just don't think I've seen someone get beaten up so bad before. Pretty much don't think you're going to see that when you go to Shinjuku. I think it was just one of those nights where it's like, it's late, this is where some, intimidating people are out, and that's just what happened when I was in one of those streets. On a lighter note, so the places that we booked, so there was a couple of things that we saw. So the Ghibli Museum, if you're a big fan of Ghibli and all that stuff, I'd recommend going there, because the house and everything is designed for, you know, people who are big fans. We also went to Disneyland and Disney Sea on separate days. That was pretty much amazing. It was like things weren't real. Like everything was colorful and shaped, and it was just amazing to see. And even the cleaners had their own little dancing thing. And there were rides there, which I didn't go on most, but I did go on a couple that I was scared of because I am not good at rides. It was just amazing. Like everything was just so incredible. Another thing that we saw was the New Japan Wrestling. So that was in, I think, one of the sumo areas where they usually do, you know, sumo events. Pretty much our seats. So we thought we were gonna sit in normal seats. And then we were like, wait a minute, we're on the same seat. How is this possible? Did we book this correctly? But turns out there is actually little segments of little squares, and you actually sit on the floor, and you can fit 4 people on there. So unfortunately we weren't as early, so there was 2 people sitting in front of us in this little thing, so you kind of have to like sit down on your butt and cross-legged or kind of keep shifting until you're comfortable. So my butt was like pretty much dead at that point. But it was an amazing experience because I wanted to see Trent Barretta and the Young Bucks, and they were awesome. The story for that is before we went in, there was toilets outside the line, and I really needed to go. So I opened the door, and it turns out it was one of those traditional toilets, so the ones that were on the floor. And I was thinking, nah, man, nah. A couple of smaller places. So we went to the Pokemon Center, Jerry World Tokyo. So in most of it, we went to all the anime places, like for figurines, things like that. So if you're familiar, there's places called Mandarake, which is like mostly all these secondhand figurines. If you're looking for, say, nostalgia figures, that's where I actually got, I think it was, how many did I get? I think I maybe just got 1. I got this Yu Yu Hakusho character, Kurama. Actually, no, I got 2. So there was Kurama and Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho. I had no idea those were gonna be there, but I was like, I need to get it. And there was other things like Nakano Broadway, and one of the things we went to, there was a small animal cafe. So there was 2 in there, so you can either go touch some small animals, or you could go see owls. So you can actually see through the owl section through the glass, and they looked so scary. I was like, no. So we went to the small animal cafe. Pretty much, I don't know why it's called a cafe, because you're not drinking or eating. You're basically at a petting place. I'm not sure if they legally know how to take care of those animals, because there was a lot of things that I think maybe they need proper habitats. So there was things like chinchillas and a fennec fox, which I'm pretty sure they didn't really know what to do because it kept walking around, running everywhere, hiding. Pretty much one of the assistants there, they were pretty much rubbing it on its stomach, and it was growling, and they're like, yeah, he likes it. And it's like, well, I don't think he does. Another thing we went to was a cat cafe, so that was pretty much what I expected. So the whole thing was warm. You could drink some coffee, read some manga, and then there's like cats sleeping everywhere, so people were just pretty much minding their business or sleeping or studying. But pretty much I wanted to, touch all the cats, so I kept petting them and things like that, so I probably look like such a douche. I did get a glimpse of the Gundam Cafe. I really wanted to go there and eat and have a look, but someone wanted to eat bigger food because they were like, everything's too small. Blah, 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 blah. If he's listening to this or you know who this is, please don't tell him. But pretty much I wanted to eat at a lot of places, but because most of them are small meals or little, decorative ones, I guess if you're a big eater, you probably won't be as satisfied. One of the things that I did buy, I got a perfect grade Evangelion Gunpla, so it's like, one of those things that you build. I loved Evangelion as a kid, and I'm still a weeb about it today. I actually finished it a long time ago, but I mean, it was really fun to do, and it was really complicated because it's one of those perfect grades. But I did it! And it's so beautiful, and I pretty much just leave it there. But it's also encouraged an obsession of mine where I want to build things now. So I actually made one a bit ago after that, and I actually have about 4 boxes of Gundams, so I'll start those later. Another thing that I bought was a Shiny album. Yes, I know that is K-pop, but hey, I bought it from Japan. I also saw a concert that was about to happen for Nishi from AAA. That's a J-pop group I used to be into. I actually lost interest into that because of the fans. But yeah, I didn't know he was doing things more solo now, and he has his own concert, and people were really into it. There was so many people dressed in all that stuff, and I was like, oh, I miss those days. Another thing that I saw was an Evangelion corner of stuff, basically. So it was like a David Jones kind of place, and there was like just a random like section of Evangelion stuff. The prices were very expensive, and I was very stingy at that time. The food was all great, of course. It was hard to choose things to eat most of the time because someone wanted to eat bigger meals and I wanted to eat, smaller meals. So basically that ended up with us just eating McDonald's or Moss Burger. So what I'd probably recommend through most of all of this: wear comfortable shoes, bring deodorant because I forgot and it was hard to actually go find one in the store. Remember to bring pants or leggings or tights if you're that kind of person that wears skirts and dresses. Another thing that I'd probably recommend is get into more anime before you go. So I'm trying to get into some animes now. Feel free to recommend. Could have weebed a bit more if I knew, what was in and that kind of thing. So basically it was a really nice trip to go, so I'd recommend going. I am actually going again in November. So the first week I'm pretty sure we're going to be sightseeing, but then definitely after we're going to do some more weebing and going to other new places and things like that, but mostly probably going to the same areas for anime stuff because that's how we do. But overall, if you haven't been to Japan, I really recommend going. But yeah, it was a nice trip, and you should go see it. So thanks for listening to me ramble. This one, I feel tired. And that's probably why this one isn't as great. I have some links around here now on where you can find me. So I'm using like Twitter and Instagram and shit like that. So you can find me there. If you liked what you listened to, even though I was rambling a lot and I sound dead, please comment and leave a like, and I'll harass people about listening to this shit and me talking as well. So have a good day, everyone, or good night, and I'll see you maybe in the next one. Okay, later.